and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Sipping with SOLZ, episode 30, the Curry episode. I really hope that is actually the right episode. It'd be bad if that was the wrong episode. But welcome back to your favorite content creator marketing podcast for the youths, for Gen Z. You know what I'm saying? The most entertaining one out there. A lot of these marketing podcasts are too boring for me. I'm going to just say it. Not enough personality. Hopefully I bring that pizzazz to the game, okay? Listen, we got a lot of things to talk about today, y'all. At the same time, not. Y'all already clicked on the title and thumbnail, okay? A lot of this podcast is going to be me talking about Streaming University because the last time we did this podcast, Streaming University did not start yet. Kai has only picked and announced exactly who's going to be there, the idea, concept, and all of that, but it wasn't actually executed yet. However, by the time this video is up, it actually should be over. By the time I'm recording, the time I'm recording this is the last day of Streaming University. It's still ongoing, but I think I've seen enough to have my takeaways, unless something crazy happens tonight, which, you know, Kai and everyone in there is liable to do something crazy tonight. Maybe it'll end with a bang. I'm honestly expecting it to end with a bang. But that is a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. I also want to talk about Daryl Gransberry, DDG, and his blow up. That's going to be our case study for today because his pivot from being a YouTuber to a streamer has been so interesting to me. And I honestly commend him for it, but we're going to be talking about a lot of that today. Also got a couple tips for y'all today, man. No guest today. It's just me and you. Buddy. Last thing I want to shout out my Instagram, y'all. Follow me on the gram, please. Follow me on the gram. Road to 50K. A lot of my focus recently has actually been growing the Instagram. I think Instagram is... I'm very bullish on Instagram right now, y'all. Very, very bullish on Instagram. I think TikTok is still the place where the culture is at. And to be honest with you, a lot of these videos, I still try to use TikTok to actually make the videos because they have the best in-app editor in the game. I still think, like, if you can get away with it on TikTok, it's better than CapCut. Like, that's how high I am on TikTok. And also the camera is fucking insane. Nevertheless, like, I'm still a TikTok consumer. But as a creator, I swear to God, TikTok is the most annoying platform to actually create content on because of the volatility. I'm seeing more opportunities for growth on Instagram. And also, I believe, and this is my tip for y'all, I believe followers on Instagram are still more loyal and sticky than TikTok. So I think it's this balance of, like, I think it's easier to get discovered on Instagram than on YouTube, right? It's not as easy, I guess, as TikTok. Even then, like, I get more views on Instagram. I'm going to just say it, right? But when you get viewers on Instagram, the real sell of Instagram to me is the power of the stories, right? The power of the stories. Because while, yes, right, all the 1 million people that watch this video right here, they're not going to be my loyal followers or whatever. However, this is a great opportunity to throw my following up, to get my following up. And over the growth that I've experienced on Instagram over the last, I don't know, year, and I've grown by like 20,000 plus followers or something like that. Like, the amount of people that view my stories have gone up significantly. Like, a good story for me now gets 5,000 people viewing it. A bad one is now 800, 1,000. Back, you know, before this blow up, 1,000 used to be like, oh my God, 1,000 people saw my story, right? Now it's different. So I say all of that to say, I think the power is growing in the stories and selling stuff in your stories. I think that is the true thing that Instagram has going for it. And that is something that TikTok just... It don't got it like that. The live, TikTok actually does have an argument for having strong live features than Instagram, but I think Instagram is more powerful in this regard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a reason why when Kai announces that he's streaming, He announces it on Twitter and on Instagram stories. Doesn't really announce it on TikTok much often, unless it's a very, very, very special event. Doesn't really do it on TikTok. I think that's purposeful, and a lot of the big, content creators do that. But nevertheless, that's one tip of the day. Actually, I actually have another one for y'all. So I don't want to muck it up. I don't want to talk about it too much. I don't want to get yapped up too much. But we've been talking about AI on this podcast recently, and how people view AI in the content realm. And I do think AI is one of those things that has a negative connotation to it. Like when you tell people you use AI, you get a little side eye. You know what I'm saying? And there are still ethical problems when it comes to AI. I'm not denying those ethical problems. However, I have been telling y'all that I've been actively trying to catch up in all the news information about AI, and also actively been trying to use it myself. And I will say this, I think it is helpful enough for content creators for me to say, do not shy away from AI and try to find ways for it to help you, because it can help you become a better content creator. The reason why I say that is because I think AI is one of those things that's actually going to affect the back end side of things much more. I think it's something that's going to affect the higher production film industry, TV production industry much more than anything. However, content creation is a medium that relies a lot on humanness. You know what I'm saying? So as long as you're building your brand around a personality, around being human, around, all these traits that you can't really replicate with AI, I think you are just fine. The voiceover people, y'all kind of cooked. Right? Like y'all are kind of cooked. I'm forgetting the term right now, but the people with the cartoon animated avatars, hey, y'all, it's looking scary for y'all. You know what I'm saying? However, I do think, and I've been doing it firsthand, I think AI is really, really helpful when it comes to coming up, generating ideas when you're in these brain creative ruts. And also it is helpful for workshopping existing ideas that you have. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very helpful to do that. And those are things that AI can help that I don't think I think it's actually helpful. It has the ability to make your content better. But also I don't think it's mad intrusive on, the other parts of the process. Like I'm still recording. I think there's still use for an editor. I think there's still use for all of that. But I think, as creators, I think we underestimate the power of an idea. I think we underestimate the power of structure when it comes to videos. I think a lot of us just wing things. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of us just wing things. And I think that's where AI has really helped me in this last week, is just workshopping ideas, and not even just video ideas. I'm using it to workshop like ideas that I have about my brand as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Is this the path I want to go to? Is this not? What are some ideas that you have? And also, I think it's important, if this is something that you're going to do, to just take everything as feedback. Take everything as feedback. Do not take what ChatGPT gives you as law. Think of it as a jumping board. Think of it as further inspiration that you didn't have prior to. Like further curated, personalized inspiration that you really just can't get anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? Also, don't rely on it too much. I think a part of it is also living real life and being inspired. Like all of that still applies. But think of it as an additional tool that you have at your disposal instead of a crutch. That's how I think of it. I don't want to yap it up too much outside of that, but Try to use AI. Think of ways to use AI. Because last point on it, I do think AI is going to be like, just from an economic standpoint, there is way too much investment in this shit for this to not be relevant in the future, at least for the next 4 to 5 years. This is going to be a disrupting thing in our society. It's one of those things, bro. You want to know at least the basics of what it's capable of. You know, the things that you can do with it to get a better understanding of the technology. And if you still come away with a negative outlook, then it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay. So let's get into Streamer University, y'all. Let's get into Streamer University, because this is something that has been all-consuming on my timeline, all-consuming to me as, you know, the pocket watcher that I am, a person that's very interested in the creator versus the creator universe and all of that. And I'm not gonna lie, Kai Cenat is a fucking genius. Kai is a genius for this idea. Whoever came up with this idea is a genius for what this is. Because I think it just took exactly all the appeals of what streaming is to a whole nother level. It takes exactly what it takes to be a successful streamer to a whole nother level. Okay, so let's start off with Kai, right? And I understand there's a little bit more nuance in all of this, but let's start with square one. Kai is a very big streamer who, in and of himself, is a own ecosystem. No glaze. That's how big he is. You know what I'm saying? He makes content good enough to be on people's For You pages, to be on people's timeline, for him to be a very big deal, right? He then combines that by being in a streaming house with other big content creators, all with their own personalities, all with their own brands, collaborating with each other, creating content with each other, creating this mini universe within themselves. And that becomes the AMP universe. You know what I'm saying? And with Kai clipping on his own, AMP as a collective clipping on their own, and also the individuals clipping on their own and having their own clipping system, AMP as a collective becomes this very hard to avoid thing on social media. Right? With the sheer amount of mass volume content that they're making, all of that. Right? It's very hard to avoid them. They're bringing guests to add people with existing fault, like all of that. They then expand out, well, Kai specifically then expands out to providing Ray, Tylil, Punga, Dez, Reggie, and Rakai a house. So that expands the whole universe even more. And for 3 days, what Kai did with Streamer University is expand that universe to as big as it can be. And this is the closest that I've ever seen a collective of people creating the exact same content. Not the exact same content, but y'all get what I'm saying here. Really taking over a platform. Really taking over a platform. And a bunch of people benefiting from it. The big streamers benefiting from it. The small streamers benefiting from it. You know what I'm saying? So let's look right now, because this isn't even peak hours. Right now, Streamer University is the third most watched category on Twitch. Full stop. Full stop. And I believe there's a couple other streamers. I don't know about a couple other, but I know Jamal is streaming on YouTube because, you know, yeah, that's Speed's brother. That's kind of natural right there. But within this, You got DDG who got 70K. Ray has 60K. And with the nature of everyone trying to catch up with where like the nucleus, the big events are happening, there's moments in the day where certain streamers just get like insane boosts because they're like the nucleus of the content for the day. It might go away momentarily, but that is still a boost that they just don't have access to in any other sort of capacity. So what do I mean by this? What do I mean by this? Let's say in the next hour, right? Brooklyn Frost has a moment where like the whole campus is around her. You know, there's match like Kai. It's been this thing where like people are even following just where Kai is. People find out, you know, Kai's in Brooklyn stream. That becomes the nucleus of the attention, and then Brooklyn all of a sudden just gets 10,000 people watching her, right? Like that is insane. That is insane. That is the power of collaboration at this scale through live streaming specifically that you can't do with any form of medium. This is the power of live streaming. And Kai has made this project that fully takes advantage of that. Fully takes advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? I'll also say this. Because someone said it on TikTok, and I low-key agree. I am glad that Kai Cenat brought on big content creators to this project. Because this idea that Kai should have just brought on all small creators, it wouldn't have been what it is, and I don't think it would have been beneficial for all the streamers to be small streamers. Because, again, the appeal of this is to make this the biggest event possible, to make this the biggest ecosystem of content possible. And that is not possible without big content creators. Also, let's keep it a buck. Respect to the small content creators. But some of y'all are really showing exactly why you guys are small, at least right now. You know what I'm saying? Streamer University, while a lot of it is unserious, is a place for you to learn game about streaming, right? Is a place for you to see firsthand what the top streamers do, what their mindset is like. You know what I'm saying? And I think those big examples, those professors, and even the non-professors with big platforms, I think it is important for the small streamers to see examples of what successful content creators look like. Because I'm going to say this. One of the biggest brain blasts I've had in content, and I've said this multiple times already on different platforms, was the first time I went to Atlanta for a playback business trip. That was the first time I've ever gone out of town, out of city for content purposes. And I also got to see exactly how Legend of Winning, Low, and Agent Zero move about their life as full-time content creators. The lifestyles that they have because of content. Their mindset when it comes to thinking of ideas. You know what I'm saying? Their comfortability in front of the camera. How they... You know, what's the attention to detail that they have to, you know, capturing certain moments and all these different things. So I think it is important, very, very important, for there to be examples of what success looks like at Streamer University. And to be honest, that's just school. That's just school too, right? That's just what school is too. And I think Streamer University is achieving that. I think this is beautiful. This is beautiful right here. And I think this is one of those projects that I think it has the ability to change the meta of what... But before I get into that, I also think another beautiful part about this is, again, not only the platform takeover, but also the algorithmic takeover on other platforms, right? Like, I think Kai understands... And a lot of the big content creators in Streamer University understand that recommendation systems on TikTok and on YouTube they recommend based off of previous things that you've watched, based off of things that interest you. So when you have this universe of just, this is literally a farm for content. This, like, I know content farm is a term that, like, you don't think literally. Now, literally think of this as a content farm of, like, a bunch of creators that are interconnected, right? And at this point, all you really need is, like, one person that you know in Streamer University. You see a piece of their content at Streamer University, you're going to be suggested another piece of content from another person at Streamer University. Maybe you're a DDG fan. You see a TikTok of DDG at Streamer University. Next TikTok you see is of a small streamer from Streamer University who did a TikTok with DDG. Like, that happens all the time naturally, but they kind of artificially did this. And they also understand, you know, obviously the importance and the value of growing on other platforms as Twitch streamers. So they have cultivated this incubation of, like, just the perfect blend of, this is something that's going to help a lot of motherfuckers that attend this event. Big or small, right? Big or small. Because a lot of these small streamers are having, you know, some of the biggest moments of their life, some of the biggest viewership of their life. And I think that also applies with the big streamers. I think DDG is getting, like, record numbers as we speak. Like, DDG has become the stream that people typically tune into when Kai isn't live, it seems like. You know what I'm saying? So this is just beautiful. And going back to the point that I didn't finish earlier, I think this has the potential to change the meta of what streaming is because of the success of this, because this has been really, really successful. And we all know how content creators think. A lot of it is copycats. Okay, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. When people see something insanely work for other people, they're just gonna try to copy it. And copying is one of those things that shouldn't have a negative connotation, I guess, as much as it has. But this is one of those things that, in my opinion, will be copied moving forward. This is one of those things where people get exactly why it works. So I don't think, you know, maybe there are a couple people that, you know, will be willing to invest in something like this. But I don't think it has to be as grand of a scale as renting out a whole fucking university with professors and boarding and, you know, all of that. But I do think that, one, Kai's definitely going to do this next year. I don't know. One, two, Kai's not the only streamer with money, okay? Three, I do think brands may see potential in sponsoring events like this. And four, again, it doesn't have to be to the big scale to what Streamer University is. I could definitely see someone in the next 2 months renting out a mansion, an Airbnb mansion, getting 20 content creators in there and doing something similar. Like the FaZe Summer last year was low-key already on those lines. It was centered around, you know, the 6 FaZe dudes, but they had a lot of content creators just going in and out of the house that they stayed at. You know what I'm saying? So we kind of already saw with FaZe last year. I think someone's going to take it up a notch, and I think this is something that's going to be low-key normalized. Low-key. Low-key. Now, I do think there has to be a anchor content creator for all these events to work. My bad, I'm just texting someone. Yeah, I do think for these future events, there still needs to be an anchor content creator to anchor the promotion and the algorithm stuff for it to work. But best believe this is not the first time. This is not the last time it's gonna happen. This is not the last time it's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Also, I was very low on India Love, man. When Kai was announced India Love. My knowledge of India Love prior to this was just another IG baddie. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Another IG baddie with OnlyFans. But I want to shout out India Love, man. I want to shout out India Love. not only does, respectfully, I can say this, not only does she look good, but also she has been surprisingly entertaining in front of the camera as a streamer. I did not think she had this much personality. I'm being so serious. Maybe that's me being misogynistic or whatever. I did not think she had this much personality and would contribute this much to the content. But India Love was a great selection by Kai. I will say that. India Love was a great selection by Kai. As far as my favorite small streamer from the bunch, let me see. I ain't gonna lie, there was a clip of Jamal earlier that I seen that made me laugh. But I'm not gonna count Jamal as a small streamer. Small streamers that I have been really impressed with. I'm not gonna lie, I really like Snow Cone. I think Snow Cone has a lot of potential as a personality. I am rooting for the females, for the women at Streamer University. You know what I'm saying? I think this is the biggest opportunity that women streamers have had to this point at scale. And low-key, maybe not having Zoe there was a mistake. I ain't gonna lie. Well, I'm just thinking about it from a content perspective. I think as far as women streamers, this... Because for the women, the biggest representation for women at this space, I'm going to just keep it a buck, is Extra Emily and India Love. India Love, I think she just started streaming because of this and because of her existing platform. Like, she blew up relatively fast. She's also, she got, the baddie boost, the baddie boost. Extra Emily is from a completely different community. She's from the Poggers community, for real. But in terms of WRL female streamers, I think that's Mari's here too. But I think from that space, Zoe Spencer is definitely the biggest. And I think, with how chaotic all of this has been, I think Zoe's energy and Zoe's presence was definitely missed. But hey, this ain't my event though. I'm just saying. I am just saying. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about is Daryl, man. Big Daryl Gransberry. So like I said, out of this event, I think, to me, the superstar, the big dog at this event has really been DDG. Outside of, obviously, when Kai's live, obviously it's fucking Kai. No glaze, but low-key glaze. But outside of that, the guy that's been consistently bringing the most viewership is DDG. Right now, he has 77,000 viewers in the stream. And we can even go at his Twitch tracker and just look at, his averages over the last couple of months, right? In May, he's averaging 22,000 with a max of 205K, right? In April, max of 67, average is 16K. March, max of, what is this? 95. Okay, so he had a higher max in March. I think that's when he did a subathon or whatever. 95K, average of 13K. February, average is 6,000. Max 20,000. But as you can see, and maybe Twitch tracker just wasn't updated or whatever, DDG's growth has been pretty fast and pretty meteoric. I'm not gonna lie. And I think there's some things to really study about DDG's rise and exactly, again, what aspiring content creators and streamers can take away from this, because that's always what we're aiming for, is what is it about the biggest content creators that, general content creators can take away from? Because there are lessons to be learned from the biggest content creators, right? I think for one, the importance of growing on other platforms. I think DDG is another example of a person killing the streaming game right now. But I think it's easy to just look at the content that he's doing and attribute his success to the content that he's doing without actually understanding the brand that is DDG, right? I think it's the same thing when people analyze Kai and why the things that he does on stream work. I think it's important to analyze as well exactly what Kai was doing before he even started streaming that attributed to his success. You know what I'm saying? I also think it's understand that Twitch inherently is a platform that doesn't really help small streamers grow unless, you know, you pull off events like Streamer University. This is a rich get richer platform. This is a platform where it is easier to stay on top once you get on top, but it's very, very hard to get on top. You know what I'm saying? And the shortcut to getting on top is by building platforms. And it's not even a shortcut. It's just a part of the game, right? Like, Twitch's discoverability is ass. So you have to rely on other platforms with better discoverability to get people into the door. And the main way to do that is through building on other platforms. And one thing about DDG is, while yes, streamers repurpose their content and clip up their content to put on other platforms, I do think it is important to understand that DDG was not that prior to the streaming pivot. DDG was a guy that was a YouTuber for real. You know what I'm saying? Even on TikTok, I believe his TikTok presence isn't even just YouTube clips. Like, he's actually making TikToks on TikTok. You know? And I think on these platforms, now that we understand the importance of TikTok, now that we understand the importance of Instagram, and even if your end goal is being a streamer, I do think it is important to still create content native to those platforms, to optimize those individual platforms for success, right? We understand we got to grow on YouTube. We understand we got to grow on Instagram. We understand we got to grow on TikTok. But within answering that question, 9 times out of 10, the easiest way, the fastest way, and the most effective way, it's not even on some shortcut shit, the most effective way to grow on those platforms is not by repurposing your content on Twitch, especially as a one-man army to start. It's not by repurposing the stuff that you do on stream. It is by actually making content for those platforms. So do the dance trends. Do the talking videos on your phone. You know what I'm saying? Do all of that. Make actual videos for YouTube. Do all of that. I think it'll help you. I think that is one takeaway from DDG, is the importance of growing on other platforms first before you tackle streaming. Because mind you, I think this is another part that's important about DDG. This is one of the smartest content creators, you know, ever. I'm gonna just say right now, the way this guy pivots, it's on some generational timing. And he's a guy that's been seeing the streaming boom in front of his eyes this whole fucking time. You know, even if we look at his Twitch tracker, he did oh my God, that was a crazy stutter. The Bruce beef was around 2023, right? And there was, you know, he was already streaming back then, not as consistent, but he was already streaming. So it's not like he's completely dead new to the game. You know, he was already on a couple Kai streams. You know, he was already connected with a couple of the big streamers because of the platform that he had. So he's not completely new to the game. But then he stopped. He didn't really stream in 2024. For real. Right? And then came back in 2025 and did what he did. So I think that's strategic. I think that's strategic. I think that's him surveying the landscape and really being ready for streaming when he's ready. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to DDG. In terms of other things we can learn from DDG, the importance of beef. Hold on, let me look at his live clips. Let me look at his live clips, because I do think this kind of tells a bigger picture of what, you know, he's doing via his content. I think another part that DDG really leans into is relationship content. I know that may sound like, low-hanging fruit, but I think DDG, even historically, is a testament to how powerful relationship content can be. I think he is also an example for how toxic making relationship content can be. One of the biggest ones, actually, as to how, if that goes south, you got to be ready to deal with those repercussions. But if we look at his content, he definitely leans in to all the girl relationship dating shit. Because I'm going to be honest, they do just eat it up, though. A lot of these people definitely just eat it up. It is what it is. So, if you can really rizz people up and use that to your advantage and not take a lot of it personally, it will help you grow. It will help you grow. Let me just say that. I also think another part that's helped him is creating actual content on camera. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds so crazy. Oh, SOLZ, he's creating content. Bro, I'm telling you, IRL streaming is one of those things that has been such a crutch in content creation. It makes no sense. Like, people, it's one of those things that make it feel like you're creating content when you're not actually creating content. You are just outside walking around. Right? You are just outside babbling about nothing. Okay? But I think one of the things that has helped DDG is for him to actually create something while he's live. Right? Create something while he's live. One of the biggest ideas that he's had is creating his album live. Right? Actually creating music live. And I think that is something that has really, really helped him. Really, really helped accelerate his growth. Because not only does he have the resources to make that as poppin' as possible, as great as possible, but this is just a sentiment I have about streaming as a whole. A lot of this is really taking what's already succeeded on YouTube, and if people haven't tried it on streaming yet, there's probably a market for it. Right? Like, reaction videos were a thing on YouTube, just do it live. Vlogging was the thing on YouTube, just do it live. Creating music has been a thing forever, especially on YouTube. Just do it live. You know what I'm saying? So I think for y'all, what are some things that you can do that already exist on YouTube that you can do live for my live streamers out there? I think that's another takeaway from all of this, right? That's another takeaway from all of this. I think a big market right now, no one has really embraced being a basketball streamer yet. And there's a couple of names that could really embrace that haven't really embraced that. I'm thinking of Julian Newman. I'm thinking about Devontae Frigga. I'm thinking about Cam Wilder in this instance. People haven't really embraced that, and I think that's a market that there's clearly a want for it, clearly a need for it, and no one has done it. Right? So what are some things that, again, have already existed that you can do live? I think for Let's Keep It a Buck, we've low-key found that. People have been podcasting offline for ages. Just do it live. Even right now, there's not a lot of great live podcasts out there. There's not a lot of great live podcasts out there. So, yeah, really, really think about these things. Really, really think about these things with DDG and how you can apply them. I'm thinking of other things that you can do as well. But, yeah, I think overall, though, DDG has just impressed me because one of the things that impressed me the most about content creators, specific content creators, isn't necessarily what they are at their peak, but it's sustained success. It's sustained success and constantly reinventing yourself. And I think the ones that not only sustain the success, constantly reinvent themselves, but also in that process really kill whichever pivot they pivot into, those are the ones that impress me the most. I think, to me, one of the most impressive content creators that I've ever had the luxury of witnessing firsthand too is Agent, because of this fact. His ability to dominate whichever field he switches or pivots into is honestly impressive. From 2K to podcasting to streaming to, you know, his vlog days to group channels to whatever he is. Like, this is a guy that has reinvented himself so many different times and succeeds every single time. DDG is another one of those people. From a vlogger to a rapper to a streamer, and being successful in all three of those things is mad fucking impressive, y'all. Mad impressive. And to the scale that he's doing it. To the scale that he's doing it. Averaging 80,000. Pulling 200K on Twitch. He is by far just flat out one of the biggest streamers on Twitch now. That's impressive. Massively impressive. And I think it's more impressive given that a lot of YouTubers are trying to succeed on Twitch and are not doing it like DDG. And I'm going to just say, I think Deshae is like the biggest example in my head. Respect. I understand, like, you know, there's some things that I'm not a fan of what he's done. But, like, Deshae is a guy similar to DDG. Honestly, makes similar content. Also has a big presence on YouTube. Also has a lot of the similar connections that DDG has. But DDG and Deshae's numbers are completely different. Completely different. Like, Deshae can have a good stream here and there, but his averages are way lower. Like, sometimes I tune into Deshae and he has like 800 or 1,000 in there. And again, I wish I could pull those numbers. But at the scale we're talking about, that's low-key underperforming. I ain't gonna lie. So I've seen YouTubers try to do it on Twitch and it just hasn't worked out. And I am glad that to see case studies like DDG where that actually succeeded. I think it's important to look at examples like DDG. So shout out to Daryl, man. I know he's been getting cooked lately. Is he my guy? I don't know. I still think he's Damo's guy, though. This, I was getting like light cooked for this. I ain't gonna lie. World-class athletes. So Mr. Beast put out this video, world-class athletes versus average people. Goes up tomorrow. This video will blow your mind. And again, I'm a details guy. I see Serena, I see Aaron Judge, I see Neymar, Giannis, Curry, and Dame. I find it interesting. I find it interesting that 3 of these people out of the 6, half of them are NBA players. Find it interesting. So I quote retweeted it saying, 1 athlete for every sport, 3 for basketball. What does that say? And look at these replies. Look at these replies. What point are you trying to make here? It was just an honest question. Look, this reply killed me. Why do people get so disingenuous when there's an ounce of pushback or attempts at accountability? Sincerely. Because it wasn't just a question, LMAO. I swear to God, on everything that I love. It was just a question. I think people are so used to everything being a jumping point on Twitter that when you actually just ask a question, one, you gotta preface it. Oh, I'm genuinely just asking this. You know, I ain't got no, you know, I ain't trying to get shit off. I think that's funny. But yeah, I was genuinely just asking this. I don't really have any takeaways from this. Now, there have been conversations about like how big basketball stars are specifically. I think I've heard those conversations before. But to answer the question straight up, if I were to answer it, what does this mean? I do think at the end of the day, Mr. Beast has an American audience. You know, that he's still known as an American YouTuber, right? And in America, NBA stars have the most face value. They're the biggest, stars, the most face recognizable stars, and that's ultimately what Mr. Beast is leaning into. I also think there's a bigger conversation about basketball and NBA specifically being the most successful content sport. Like in terms of a content ecosystem around them, the NBA has the strongest one out of every sport outside of soccer, probably. Like baseball, listen, I'm in the space right now. It's not like the NBA. Let me just say that. Football, I don't know. But I just find that interesting. Definitely just find that interesting. With that being said, chat, I think I'm gonna call it right here. Just really want to get those things off. Not too much on the plate, on the docket today. Have I earned your like? Have I earned your subscribe? Let me know by liking or subscribing to the channel. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoy your weekend. And I'm out of here, man. Peace.